All right, good morning. Thank you so much for all of you that were able to come down here and sacrifice your time. I know it's the most valuable thing we all have. And for those few of you that aren't able to be here today but that are tuning in online, we appreciate you taking that opportunity as well. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is our regular commission meeting, Thursday, May 9th at 9 a.m. And as with every meeting, we're going to start off with prayer. We're honored to have Pastor Matt Gaines here with us this morning. And then after the prayer, we'll ask Commissioner Peach to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you will, please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Commissioner Peach. All right, we will ask if there are any changes that need to be made before we approve the minutes for the meetings February 28th, April 15th, April 25th, and the April 25th special meeting. Does anyone have an objection to the approval of the minutes? Hearing none, we'll approve those minutes. All right, does anyone have any changes or modifications that need to be made to today's agenda?
No changes. Just want to point out there is an addition. A noise variance request came in on Tuesday for a concrete pour down here on Navarre Parkway, and the representative is here to answer any questions we may have on that.
All right, thank you.
No changes.
All right, with that, we will go ahead and approve the agenda as published. All right. Next, we have the opportunity to have a proclamation here. This proclamation is for Law Day. I believe we might have Mr. Nall present for that. All right, absolutely. Please come forward. Morning. We going to take this opportunity to read this proclamation into the record. This is an honor that the board has to be able to recognize this. County of Santa Rosa County Proclamation states, whereas Law Day is a day of national dedication to the principles of government under law, as stated by President Dwight Eisenhower, who established the first nationwide commemoration in 1958. And whereas the American Bar Association has identified the 2019 theme as free speech, free press, and free society. And whereas the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution states, Congress shall make no law representing an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And whereas the 14th Amendment incorporates the rights established in the First Amendment to apply to state governments. And whereas the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states, everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without inference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. And whereas the 2019 Law Day theme enables us to reflect on the way that freedom of speech and freedom of the press provide the foundation for our free society. And whereas Law Day, May 1st, 2019, will be commemorated in Santa Rosa County, Florida, by the Escambia Santa Rosa Bar Association with a judicial reception on May the 14th, a Law Day luncheon on May 17th, and a religious ceremony on May 19th. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Santa Rosa County do hereby proclaim May the 1st, 2019 as Law Day in Santa Rosa County and urges the citizens schools, businesses, and media of Santa Rosa County, Florida, to use this occasion to preserve and strengthen the rule of law. Passed and adopted by the Board of County Commissioners of Santa Rosa County this 9th day, May 2009, signed by myself, Sam Parker, as the chairman of the board. If you will, I don't know if you have the opportunity, we'll come up here and if you'll come around and take a photo.
Underneath the side. How are you? There we go. I think I got it. No, I just want to thank y'all. We enjoy the support of the two-county area, and it means a lot to have your proclamation and your support and all of our initiatives. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and for the proclamation.
Thank you for that. All right. Now we have the opportunity, I believe Austin is here to give us a presentation, and he is with the Escambia Santa Rosa Regional Advanced Traffic Management System. Well, he's with West Florida Regional Planning Council, but he's going to give us an update. And I think for many of you here, this is probably going to be the first time you've ever heard about this system. And over to you, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, it's good to see you. Good to be back in Santa Rosa County and presenting before you today. As Chairman mentioned, this has been a long-standing conversation at the Transportation Planning Organization. Yep, it's on. How about that? Is it better this way? Okay. All right. I'll see what I can do here. So this has been discussed, as you all know, for many, many years. In fact, it's had money programmed to it, money taken away. And so when we finally asked the question to DOT, where's the problem? What do we need to do to advance this project forward? And it was simply a short answer of we need a lead agency, which, as you guys know, we've taken steps to make the TPO be that lead agency. And the other part is we need ongoing operational commitments from each jurisdiction within the TPO boundary. And so today we're going to talk in hopefully in great detail to answer any questions that you guys have about this ATMS program, and then leave with you a draft agreement, and then next month you'll have the final agreement before you for approval. So today it's just information, answer any questions, kind of flush out everything that you guys might be thinking, feeling, and also again present this to the public, because this is about to make a play for the public benefit. So we want to also go through the details. Ben Faust with DRMP is here today. He's going to give a presentation about what is an ATMS program, what are we proposing, and what are we asking for. So again, today it's just information. Please feel free to ask any questions that you feel that you might have, and that goes for anybody here. We want to make sure we answer all the questions. So I'll turn it over to Ben. He's got a presentation, and then I'll wrap it up with next steps.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Austin. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Most of you that participate in the TPO have seen my presentation or something similar, my presentation that goes into the benefits of the idea of an ATMS system and regional traffic management system. But I'll take my time and go through a presentation again. If you'd like to speed me up, speed me up. If you want to stop and ask questions, you can do that as well. Really, what is the challenge? The challenge is that, adding capacity has traditionally been through addressing congestion and adding lanes. We're always asking for the 5th and 6th lane to be added to a highway, sometimes the 7th and 8th. But we also have other means to address congestion that we're not really employing well in the two-county area, particularly in Santa Rosa County. A solution is what the DOT is now calling TSM&O. Traffic Systems Management and Operations is really a way to maximize traffic on the existing roadway capacity lanes that you have through good management practices, not just good signalization, not just the technology, but also an operations component to make sure that the traffic is cleared effectively so that you have maximum throughput and safety on your roadway system. Unfortunately, the backbone for it is an advanced traffic management system that does employ the technology and put a system of technology on the road so that you can do these things. But it includes monitoring, evacuation events, traffic events associated with beach or tourism, parking issues, and particularly incidents management. If there are crashes on the road, a way to be able to effectively deal with clearing crashes quickly and safely so that you can maximize throughput. And it also is just a basic detector failure type thing. If there's something on the system of the network that's not working well, having an advanced system that communicates back to the operators, it keeps the system up and running at peak performance at all times. Strategies include the things that we've been talking to you about, deploying an advanced communication system that allows the operators to talk to all of the signals on the system so that we can operate the signals and progress traffic through the corridors as effectively as possible. There's lots of elements associated with that. Some of them are technical, some of them are basic. Some of them are just communication, getting people to a broken device quickly, but also managing incidents response, whether that be emergency response or just road ranger program on the arterial, not just the interstate system, but also just keeping the signal retiming done effectively so that you can monitor and manage, have a system of measurable throughput so that you can manage your signal timing as effectively as possible. So kind of just went through those. I got ahead of myself. It also can be adapted to help manage transit better too, if transit elements are a concern in certain urbanized areas. Better experience for overall roadway users. Basically increased safety for motorists, and infrastructure can be deployed in conjunction with capacity improvements. So as we make the capacity improvements, we can upgrade and improve the technical equipment. The DOT is actually typically putting these types of improvements in with their construction projects, whether it be a fiber deployment or more advanced technical equipment at the signalized intersections. But if we don't have a system stood up and operating, they don't know what to give us when we ask for it. And it's typically got a very high benefit to cost ratio, meaning that for the types of projects the DOT spends money on, capacity projects typically, you'll improve throughput on a segment, and you'll have a good user benefit to that segment. But for the cost of that project, whether the right-of-way and the construction costs, typically only benefit a certain number of users that actually use that limited segment, 2 or 3 miles. An ATMS improvement, if deployed like we're talking about over a 2-county area, could, at a reasonable cost, a cost equivalent to a good-sized construction project for a few miles of highway, can actually benefit to some percentage all of the traffic in the network. 25% travel delay reduction is huge for me. We talk about putting a price on the time that people spend in traffic, and if you can reduce that by even a minor percent, a few percent, you're saving your community and your taxpayers and your economy a great deal of money. Going into travel benefits, the Santa Rosa County has, according to the DOT source in 2017, 3.1 million miles per day are traveled in Santa Rosa County. So if we can just get a minor fraction of savings, we should be able to show a strong benefit to your community for those improvements. Safety benefits in the same way. Santa Rosa County showed 1,893 crashes in the latest traffic data from the DOT 2017. It's hard to see here on the screen, but the DOT costs out crashes at a minimum of about $90,000. So any number of crashes that you may reduce by improved safety or improved throughput or improved operations could save the community a significant amount of money. Talk a little bit about our project. We've done a master plan. Right now, what we're talking about with this effort we're going through with the DOT and developing a funding scenario and an implementation scenario is built around what we call our field build-out deployment. It's basically putting fiber or some level of communication to every signal in the system over the 2-county area. It includes a new regional traffic management center that would be staffed and manned and operated to operate the system. And it would include all the complete upgrades for terminal equipment, including
dynamic message signs, all of the information you need, the upgrades for all of the computer equipment at each of the signalized intersections, as well as other detection equipment to allow us to operate the signals effectively. 365 total signals. About 300 of them are on the state system, and the smaller portion is off of the state system, whether they be city or county signals that are not on state roads or state county road intersections. Estimated cost is about $46 million for the whole deal. Now talk about operations, and this is really where the DOT's concern is. They like the idea of a master plan. They agree with the master plan. They helped us develop the master plan. They even helped us develop this operations plan and some of the costing scenarios associated with operations. But they want to make sure that the locals will participate at the level that they expect and understand what their obligations are from that respect. So we'll talk a little bit about the operations plan. It would include 5 days per week, 2 shifts, and this is at a bare minimum. This is the basic level of functional operation. We do believe, though, once we implement this, that there will be calls for us to operate at expanded hours and expanded shifts around events or managing events that may happen in the 2-county area. But for basic operations, 4 operators, 2 shift supervisors, a traffic engineer at the helm, an analyst to help with signal timing, and then miscellaneous, some probably part-time support staff in IT, electronics. Certainly a big locating program. Some of the communities in our area are already doing locates on their utilities. If we install a whole lot of fiber into the ground, we're going to have to expand that locates component, and that is cost incurred with that. And then, of course, there's the software licensing component as well. Looking at about $900,000 a year. This chart shows $920,000 a year. The consultant that helped us estimate these costs, we've tweaked his numbers a little bit, and I know that there are some concerns with some of the dollars here. We in our industry in engineering are having a heck of a time finding qualified staff to do the exact type of operations are required here. And so some of the dollar amounts for annual salaries are probably hybridized because we're expecting some people to do 2 different functions, or some of these shift requirements are not necessarily full-time. So we've rounded it off a little bit and taken our best guess at a practical number. If we were to follow the AASHTO guidelines and the federal guidelines and those recommended to us by other users, this number would probably be double. So we're trying to use numbers that are a little more reasonable for a fledgling effort, and I'm assuming that would probably ramp up over time as the effort and the benefits of our effort are more broadly recognized. Agency estimated annual O&M cost for our ATMS. As we went through the master plan process, we worked with the stakeholders and the agencies, including your staff, to develop an understanding of how we may proportion the cost for this. We talked about a lot of different scenarios, but we settled on a ratio of signalized intersections within your jurisdiction as a simple way to do it. There are discussions that could be held on that in the future, but our initial estimation is just based on the ratio of signals to the total number of signals of 365. So Santa Rosa County has 58 of the 365, 16% of the total volume, which give you an estimated cost of about $145,000 a year, assuming no other dollars are brought forth by the TPO or the DOT to stand up the operations. And I'm going to turn it over to Austin to talk a little bit about the future, but I just wanted to point out that a couple of years ago we did come before each of the 5 agencies within the TPO, 2-county area of the TPO, and asked for a resolution of support to the idea or concept of a regional system. So all of the 5 agencies have passed a resolution that says they do support the concept of moving forward with regional operations for signals and understand the benefit for that. And so the next step we're taking here is really an expansion on that and an attempt to get the dollars into the work program and to get the DOT to agree that recognize that the agencies have a stake in the game and are willing to step up, participate in the operations.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for going through the presentation again.
Thanks, Ben. So So again, in a nutshell, what we're talking about is linking all the signals across the two-county area through broadband, through fiber, or some method. That way they can communicate together. You've got people watching the system. You've got adjustments that can be made real time. So the incident response, different activities. You've got somebody that can change the signals at any second of any day, as long as somebody's manning that station. We are significantly behind. This region is significantly behind other areas our size. For example, Tallahassee has had a system in place for many years. And once you put that fiber from signal to signal, where you go with it from there is up to you. It's up to your creativity. It's up to somebody that says, hey, I have an idea that can make life better for the people that are passing through here. And so what we're asking for, as Ben mentioned, the bare bones system. We just want to get it in. We want to get it started. We want to start being able to get acclimated to what it can benefit, what it can do to benefit our residents. We've had multiple conversations with DOT, and again, here's where I'm going to kind of wrap it up. This project has been stagnant. We've asked DOT for money over and over and over again, and they said this time, operations, the locals must support the cost of operations, because that's where the longevity of this project is going to be. They have stated very clearly to us, we will build it if the locals will maintain it. So that $40 million capital deployment is what DOT is stating to us, that if we have these agreements of operation, ongoing operations, they'll build that, they'll fund that cost. And so we are asking them if we can get every Escambia County, Santa Rosa County, Milton, Gulf Breeze, Pensacola all together to support their portion of that operational cost. We're going to ask for DOT to start programming funds in year 3 of our work program, somewhere around 20 million. It might come in 20 million, 10 million chunks over the next 5 years, but we're going to be very aggressive to try to get this thing moving. So our ask of the county is to support your share of that operational cost, not this year, not next year, but year 3. We're not, I know it's kind of a sticky area when you're talking about programming future dollars. Maybe there's something you can program next year to kind of get the ball rolling a little bit. That I will obviously, we'll work that out with you guys on how we program that. But year 3 is where we're going to be looking for those operational costs. And the agreement that we put before you for approval next month will hopefully have all that language crafted out and solidified, so that DOT has the comfort that they need to start programming the capital deployment dollars. So again, we're here today just to present this to you, answer any questions that you have about the system. But this is definitely needed for our region. I think everybody can agree. When you hit one light green, you hit the next light red, and it's just frustrating. Our travel time is higher than most areas across the state. Our commute times are longer than most areas. Our residents really, truly need this system to be able to, and you can do special event flushing. So you can turn the system from a 2-minute cycle to a 5-minute cycle at the drop of a hat. Just start clicking it and flush that beach traffic out on a Sunday evening or however. So it gives the user the flexibility to be able to make this thing happen. So,
Thank
questions?
you, Austin. Does anybody have any questions for Austin?
Just a comment, Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman.
Lyncher?
Thank you, Austin, and thank you for the I guess second or third time we've seen that presentation, but it reinforces how effective the ATMS system can be at improving the throughput on our highways and our local roads as well. Now, I remember a study that you presented a couple of years ago regarding the retiming on Highway 98 in particular is the one that caught my attention. And by studying and retiming the lights on 98, there was a reduction in travel time of 15 to 20%.
from Navarre to Gulf Breeze or Pensacola, which is significant when you're talking about 40,000 cars per day plus traveling on Highway 98. So this, I think, in the long run, this will greatly improve our local transportation network, and I support the county coming up with a way to fund our share of the operating costs, certainly.
Thank you. Commissioner Peach?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Austin, Ben, thanks. You know, we've been talking about this since I started getting involved with the TPO, and I could tell you, I've seen these systems in action, and it's amazing, and it's the fix we need until FDOT comes through with their future expansion. So I don't see how we cannot support this, and I'm in full favor of it, and I think just the savings and the time and the calls I have to make to Stephen to get the lights retimed on 98 because they go out alone would be a great benefit to this county. So I'm hopeful, and I'm pretty sure we can find a way to support this. Thank you.
Thank you again, gentlemen. Very much look forward to seeing you come back, and we'll try to be behind you any way we can.
If all possible, next month when we have that draft or the final agreement before you, hopefully we'll have all the bugs worked out of it. Ben and I will have other obligations, so this is the one time you'll see us. We'll present that to county staff and have that before you for approval, but we will not be present at that meeting. But you can always catch us at the TPO meetings if you have any questions. So with that, just want to jump back real quick. With that contribution that we're asking the county to provide, there's methods that we could try to offset that. We can try to use TPO box funding. We can try to do things, but in the end, none of those are guaranteed. And so that's why we have to have a solid agreement with each jurisdiction to support that ongoing operations if all else fails. So we'll continue to try to find money wherever we can, but that local share, we do need that commitment from you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Austin.
Okay. Is it okay to start our priorities discussion real quick? I know it's not on the agenda, but is it okay to throw it in there while we're talking about transportation issues and?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks, Ben. So as you guys know, with the TPO board, we're opening up the session right now to talk about transportation priorities. We want to make sure we've got the right priorities for each of our jurisdictions. And so I've got Jill here to talk about Santa Rosa County's priorities and just get a feel for, do we have the right priorities going into this session for the county, and get your thoughts on the TPO. The ATMS project that we just discussed is number one on the list. It's been number one for many, many years. But again, we just kind of want to get a feel from the county here today. Are our priorities straight?
Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for allowing us to set up out front. We have a little, we're calling it a pop-up outreach event to get comments from engaged citizens. And we figured the best way possible is go to a meeting where engaged citizens go to. So if anything in this presentation sparks interest from anyone in the crowd, we encourage you to go and talk to our staff outside at the table. We also encourage everyone to go to the public workshop on May 22nd. The public workshop is at 10, and then the TPO, TCC, and CAC committee workshop is at 11 a.m. that day. And this will, for the schedule of this priorities, is to go before the TPO board in June for draft and approval in July. We did pass out, and it is available at the table outside, 2 copies of this. The first one is only the Santa Rosa County projects, just to get your attention on the Santa Rosa County projects. The other copy is for the whole TPO, just in case you want to know what that number 2, 3, and 4 project is that you're fighting for, as the first true only Santa Rosa County project is at number 5. Like Austin said, 1A and 1B are the ITS projects, and I do apologize, there is money funded in the FDOT work program in, I believe, fiscal year 2023, and we'll update this draft as we, come across discrepancies like this. But like Austin said, This is your opportunity to go through these projects to see, at least for the Santa Rosa County projects, if, US 90, those phases, how they're broken out, if that's the same order of priority you want that to be presented to FDOT. On the second page, you'll see 98, and those phases broken out, if that's the same order you want to see there. And then the difference between pages 1 and 2 and page 3 is just that pages 1 and 2 are the non-SIS projects, so those non-state system roadways, and then page 3 is the SIS roadways projects, and that's, you got 87 North and the 87 Connector Road, as well as also 98 is on there. I think y'all wanted 98 on both of these lists just to emphasize the priority of it, and then I-10 at the end. But I'm here to answer any questions you have, or if I can provide feedback to our staff if you do have recommendations for reordering these at this point. Like I said, there's a lot of other opportunities for y'all to provide us feedback. We've got the public workshop May 22nd. At the June TPO meeting is the draft, and then obviously the final adoption in July. You can also make changes before you adopt it.
So again, if you would please take these lists back with you, make some comments. If there's a project, an example that DOT has brought to us is if a PD&E says a flyover is warranted and you don't support the outcome of the PD&E, maybe we need to take that priority and move it down to the bottom of the list until we find a solution that's a little more viable. We just don't want a high project or a project with a high priority taking the place of something that could advance when we know we don't want that specific project to advance. We want to make sure, again, we got our priorities straight. DOT is clear on what the board's asking for, and so again, please take this back with you and provide any input that you can for us. Thank you all.
Thank you all. All right. Next item we have is the consent agenda. Is there any members of the public or any of my fellow commissioners that have any items that they feel need to be removed from the consent agenda? All right, hearing none, we will approve the consent agenda. Moving to the regular agenda, first we have one item under Economic Development Committee. I'll defer to Commissioner Salter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure how this got to the regular agenda, but I'll read it. Recommend approval of appointment of Anna Weaver, United Bank, and Mike Johnson, Gold Ring Gulf Distributing, to the Career Source Escarosa Board of Directors as Santa Rosa County private sector representatives, and I would move approval without objection. Commissioner Lynchard.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is on the regular agenda because I need to abstain from this.
Right.
Career Source rents space in a commercial property that I own.
Let the record show Commissioner Lynchard abstains. With that, I would recommend moving approval without objection.
Hearing no objection, the item's approved. Thank you, Commissioner Salter. Next, under the Administrative Committee, item number 1 is a request for lien forgiveness. Staff had the opportunity to recalculate this based on some of my fellow commissioners' recommendations. This is a discussion of a request from Martha Sizemore for the reduction of the interest due on an abatement lien. It would reduce it to the amount of $5,151.60, which is based on a 3% annual interest rate. For the record, I will have to abstain from voting on this, so I will look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Sizemore is en route. She's not here at the moment, but maybe we could defer action towards the end of the agenda on this.
And the reduction would be on the interest to $5,151.60. The original lien of $9,540 would still stay in place, so it'd be a total of $14,000.
Correct. Do any of the fellow commissioners? I don't know that we need to move it. I'm looking for a motion. If anybody wants to make a motion to approve again, I'm going to have to abstain from this due to financial interest.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve as presented.
Hearing no objection, the item's approved. Item number 2 is a discussion of a request for a noise variance for the construction project located at 7100 Navarre Parkway. I believe we have a representative here to speak on this today. If you would just come forward and let us know. I know we didn't have the opportunity to talk about this on Monday, so if you just let us know what you're looking to do and what you're asking for. Good morning.
Yes, thank you. My name is Jerry Tomasoni. I'm project superintendent for the project with Odin Hardy Construction, and it is located at 7100 Navarre Parkway. If you know where the 3-story move-it storage facility is, we're right next door to that, and we're building a 155,000 square foot storage facility with that project. And we're requesting there's a series of 4 buildings, and when we pour concrete, especially in the hot summer months, we like to pour concrete like in 2, 3 in the morning to get it down, be able to finish it properly. And in this particular project, we got 5 different dates that we're going to request a noise variance, and they will be separated over, I would say, a 4-month to 5-month period. It's not going to happen consecutively because we're going to pour the concrete, get the slab on grade, and then work normal hours until we get to the 2nd floor and then the 3rd floor. Then we have 3 buildings in the back that are just single-story buildings for RV boat storage. But right now we're looking at a total of 6 times this will happen. We're going to request this variance and over a 4 to 6 month period, depending on our schedule, how quickly we move or delays.
Commissioner Lynch, is this in your district or Commissioner Peach? I know exactly what you're talking about. Just sometimes I forget which one of these guys lines off. I'll defer to Commissioner Peach. Him or Commissioner Lynch will obviously be a little bit more familiar with areas.
We're on
make sure they don't foresee
where
any
the
issues.
Walmart, the neighborhood Walmart is. We're on the north side, probably a mile or a half mile or a mile down the road, heading towards Gulf Breeze, on the corner of Rosa.
I see exactly where you're at. Are there any provisions or anything we could do to notify the neighborhoods that it's going to be happening so they're not
And
shaking and, I mean,
yeah, we have
signage or anything?
there's not
There's
too
not
much
a whole lot of
residential.
neighbors I see.
Right, you got the move it on the one side, and then on the other side's Serosa. There's nothing there residentially or across the street. Where we do have some residential is in the back of the property. It's a 10-acre site. We are good distance away. I want to say 500-600 feet. We have a 25-foot buffer of trees that we've left up in the back of our property. And then you have the backs of these residential areas in the back of the property. I'm not sure how many there are, but there's probably at least 5 or 6 residential homes.
Yeah, and I don't see a whole lot. I understand the issues of pouring concrete in hot weather, so, and if after the first night we get some complaints from the neighbors, maybe we could work something out or talk with them, you know, the ones that
Sure.
are close there.
Yeah.
But I don't see any issue with granting this one for the limited time he needs to move his project forward, Mr. Chairman. But I would recommend, is there any questions? Anyone in the audience? I would recommend approval without objection to this request.
All right. Hearing no objection, it's approved. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right, item number 3 is a discussion of direction to staff regarding enforcement of Article 8, which is specifically deals with signage, paragraph 8.09.01B, to allow a corrective period of 180 days for feather signs. And I believe here, from the discussion we've had from Monday till what I'm reading here, which is the recommendation of staff, is basically to allow that any notification done, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but any notification done to any business owners that had feather flags that violates the current land development code would be given a period of 180 days, and what that would do is that would take us to beyond the date of our anticipated completion for the land development code revision. And that way, during that time, we've already had several of the chambers of commerces as well as several business owners. I even had one email this morning from business owners that aren't members of the chambers of commerce, including our individuals that are not affiliated with businesses, to give us enough time to give us some feedback. And we heard some of those alternatives on Monday. One I particularly like that staff had brought forward that some of the neighboring counties do, and I know we even have municipalities here in our own county that have conflicting codes with what ours is on this one. So again, I think we could probably put that to bed with that explanation. But Dan, if you'll just correct me if I'm wrong, basically it would be that there'll be no citations or anything issued for within that 180-day period to give us some time to work that out.
No, sir. I would envision two things. What I tried to capture the discussion and the motion that was approved Monday in this recommendation, that any violations going forward, they would still be in violation of the current code because we're not changing the code, but the corrective period would be extended to 180 days. So they would still get a notice of violation, not a fine, but a notice that they are in violation, and given 6 months essentially to correct that, which that would be, as you stated, past the time the land development code review occurs. So if the code stayed the same, they would have a violation and they would need to take action. If the code is changed, they would have to comply with that new code in that same time period. One additional point we discussed on Monday, there was not it wasn't necessarily part of the motion, but I would ask for the board's direction on existing violations and notices and fines. That my suggestion would be that those have to be rectified, either the fine paid or a hearing with the magistrate scheduled for those that have not taken action.
Yeah, I know. Again, I was trying to be a little preemptive so that hopefully we could solve the issue that I know many people are here to speak on without maybe belaboring it. But with that, I'm sure there'll be a little bit of discussion among the board, so probably have the opportunity now if we have folks that are here to speak on it. And again, as anybody, if you want to speak, just please come forward, state your name and address for the record. And and sort of the sticky part where the board's getting into is, even though this has been on the books for well over 10 years and it wasn't enforced, so now, even as I stated Monday, it seems to be that it's just a whole new ordinance because you're seeing enforcement for the first time. So what we're looking for is a way that we sort of protect ourselves legally from saying that, okay, if we issue a notice but we don't take any action, then it gives us some time to change the code. But I believe the quickest possible way, and Roy could tell us just so we all know that we could change the code, is a few months, because we have to go through that state mandated process. So that's what we're looking for, is a good compromise that will give us some time until we can change that. Is that correct, Roy?
That's correct. We have to go through any amendment to the land development code has to go before the planning and zoning board, and their recommendation has to be brought before the council and commission, and we have to advertise that.
All right, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Is it on? Yep. I guess so. My name's Kevin Hobbs, 4913 Quiet Meadow Lane in Pea Ridge, Florida. Everybody calls it Pace. I'm glad to see you guys are going to do something about this. Evidently, it's been around for a while. I don't think when they did it, there was any flags, even there was such a thing back then. But it looks like I got 2 violations, 2 citations. I got one at 9 o'clock the other morning, and I got one at 10 o'clock the same day on the same sign. So it looks like he wrote 4412 and then 4415, so he went somewhere else and wrote a couple more. But we spent a lot of money in this center. We tried to make it nice. We didn't jam it up on the highway. I got a longer decel lane than anybody on Highway 90. So we tried to make it nice, and I'd appreciate any help you guys can give us where you communicate with all the other departments, because when we were building it, it seemed like one guy tell you one thing, somebody else tell you something across the hallway. And so anything you guys can do to make it a little more streamlined for us, because it's kind of tough out there some days. By the time you pay taxes and insurance, and our tenants are trying to, do the same thing we're doing, collecting taxes, and it gets to be a tough job. But I would like to know what I need to do with these, because it appears I'm on the hook for, a couple $100 here, over $250.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to open the opportunity for the public to speak, because that's what the administrator is looking for this board to give direction on. I can tell you before any of you speak, I'm going to ask that we don't. I personally like the way Commissioner Cole put it. We may get. I'm not an attorney, and we may get into all kind of issues, but if we're going to say that we're not violating these folks from here on out, then I don't see how it's right to have you pay for this fine, and I don't see how it's right to not refund the people that did pay for it. Now, I'm sure that is a legal mess, and I don't know. I guess that's why we hire a legal department. But again, I think folks elected us to do sort of that common sense approach, and as I said Monday, this is tough. I mean, I've been a cop, and I understand enforcing laws, and I understand discretion, but it just feels like a new thing because we went from 0 to 60 sort of overnight. But so I guess to answer your question, we'll know hopefully here before this meeting. That's what he's asking for. I just wanted to offer the opportunity for anybody else to speak, and then I'm sure the board will have a little bit of discussion on it, and we're going to hopefully make a decision to answer your question today.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
Paul Ruiz, 9575 Navarre Parkway. I just wanted to mention I appreciate you guys trying to take care of us and realize the pain we were kind of going through with the way this was implemented. And it would have been nice if there could have been some written warnings. I know you guys said you went out a day and warned people, and then so after that it was like less than a few days later, my landlord, I didn't even get the citation, my landlord got the citation for the one by my house. But just take into account that this wasn't rolled out the best way. There could have been some more announcements before you started laying the hammer down, and just take it into account that, hey, the no flag issue is hurting my business, and y'all are taking care of that, and I appreciate it. But still, the way it was implemented could have been done better, and maybe y'all can take a little accountability for that and give us a little ease on these citations. Thank you.
Thank you. You will not see a Broward County Sheriff response that blames it on somebody else. This board is the beginning and the end of responsibility, and I know these gentlemen share that for the good or the bad. So, to your comment, does anybody else want to speak on this item? You will just come forward and state your name and address.
Hi, my name's Kenneth Olin. I'm at 2063 Biscayne Boulevard over in Navarre. I'm not fully cognizant of your past discussions on this item, but I am a recipient of a fine years ago. So to say that this law hasn't been enforced in the past is a crock, because my bank account will show you it's been enforced. The law is the law, and until you change the law is in effect. So I don't think that it's fair to give people a freebie just because they were ignorant of the law. If you're stopped for a traffic violation and you claim, oh, I didn't know, I'm sorry, that's not, ignorance of the law is not an excuse, and you know that. So let's stop playing the game. Either you have a law or you don't have a law. Enforce it if it's on the books. If you don't want to enforce it, then get it off of the books. We do that for our nation. We do it for every other incident. You have to keep law and order. And so, like I say, if you have a law, enforce it. If you don't have a law, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous, but I think you get my gist. It's been enforced in the past. Either you choose to enforce it now or ignore it. If you're going to ignore it, get it off the books. There's no excuse for not knowing what the law is. Look it up on the internet. If you can't get it on the internet, go down to your local library. All of the laws are there. We as citizens should be cognizant of the laws that are passed by you, the board. So let's get it straight. Enforce it or get it off the books. now. Don't wait 180 days and give people who have violated the current law an excuse to continue the violation. 180 days, 6 months is too long. Enforce it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Have anybody else here to speak? If you would, just come forward again. Name and address for the record. Thank you.
Hello, Robert M. Pete Petersane, 2861 PGA Boulevard. Probably my first comment is more to your rewriting of the Land Development Code. Leaning libertarian, I think business owners ought to maybe have a little more flexibility with what they do on their own property. That said, currently, I hope this 180-day moratorium does not affect enforcement of the businesses that creep out onto the right-of-way, or the businesses go around and nail signs up on utility poles, or run a dozen or so signs up and down East Bay Boulevard. And I just noticed driving in here, there's one nailed on a tree at a corner by the parking lot. There's another 3 down on the corner by Lowe's that are snipe signs, off business signs, which are clearly not allowed by the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Real quick, just if you give me the leisure, Jane, could you just, you or Mark, get with Mrs. Sizemore and let her know that we disposed of that item, and so that way she can answer any questions? Okay. All right, no problem. We'll get back with you. I just wanted to be courteous of your time. Good morning.
Morning. James Dabney, 9200 Military Trail, Navarre, Florida. I want to come back in front of y'all and appreciate y'all having the discussion and bringing it back up for us to have the 180 days. And I appreciate the guys who've spoken in front of us, one for and one against. At the end of the day, I look at it as a First Amendment right, and that's going to be my stance. It's our property. It's our rights. I understand you have sign ordinances. You know, at the end of the day, like the one gentleman said, we got to have some type of way to advertise. There's the city of Milton, the town of Jay. Those places allow those signs that we're fighting for our right to have. Banners, you know, as long as it's on our property, they allow it. You know, I spoke with a commissioner right after the meeting and found out that where you guys were sitting was in the city limits of Milton. Well, right across the street, Mackenzie Motors has all that stuff. Well, they're legally allowed to have that. So that was my error on that. But my point is, on yesterday I took a drive around. I took 526 pictures. That's going to be the start, and that's in a rural area. It's a rural area. There's going to be 526 sign violations just in that area. So my thing is if you read this, which we really starting to, I'm going to educate myself on this, and I can tell you there's going to be a lot of unhappy folks. There's going to be McDonald's that are in violations. There's going to be Home Depots. There's going to be Lowe's. It's going to go on and on. It's going to be a long, long, long road, you guys. And I say that, I don't mean to anybody on the spot. It's going to be a long road for Santa Rosa County. If you read this to the letter of the law, you guys have written it and agreed on it, it's going to be hard to enforce these rules. And, you know, you're talking about real estate companies. A 4x8 sign on a real estate company, it's one per parcel. It's not to exceed 2 foot by 3 foot, period. If it has one thing, one parcel ID, it's one sign. How many signs do you see that have NBI property? How many signs do you see that have multiple parcel or signs on? You're a real estate guy. You know, I know I've looked around. I know some people abide by it. So we just all need to work together and come up with an applicable solution to get this passed. You know, I don't want to come back in a month and have 10,000 sign violations that I bring to you and say, now what are you guys going to do? You know, but work with us as the business owners who are coming in front of you saying, please guys, we need help. We've got to get some agreement. It ain't just the feathered flags. You're addressing just feathered flags today. That's not going to necessarily solve the 180 days, is not going to necessarily solve the problem for everything that we're trying to do. But I can tell you, it's a start. You know, so if you guys, I mean, I'll be glad to, you know, listen to somebody tell me a different way of doing it or coming up with a different solution, but it's going to be tough for you guys to solve your Section 8 articles on signs. There's going to be a lot of people in violation. There's move it banners on the property that Mr. Lyncher just sold. That's illegal. Am I right? The banners are illegal. They're on the fence. They're hanging on the fence. So, you know, bottom line is, I'm not here to call anybody out, but I can tell you this. I'm not going to be the guy who stands there and says, hey, guys, I'm taking down my feathered flags because I was told to. Just don't agree with it. You know, it's my property. I'm the guy who's paying the taxes. Ultimately, I'm paying these guys' salary. I'm paying these guys' salary. There's other business owners out here that are paying it. I don't agree. I do appreciate what you guys are trying to do right now. Well, I know we can work it out. Thank you.
Thank you, James. If anybody else that, you know, just, I'll let you work out the order amongst yourselves. You will just remember when you come up, state your name and address for the record for Amanda. Thank you.
Thank y'all. I'm James Calkins, 5112 Holcomb Road, Milton, Florida. And I came here to say that I was actually once a business owner in Santa Rosa County. I owned a small beach service business. And I know how these guys are feeling. I was attacked. I was the only guy that an ordinance was enforced on me. And it still hasn't been enforced on any other. Constant businesses violate the ordinance, but I was attacked because of politics. And what I see right now is the same thing going on with our local business owners. They are being attacked. They are under attack. And I believe it's wrong. And I believe you all are doing a good job as county commissioners, but it's hard to rein in staff on these issues. We got a county guy that just went on the Pensacola News Journal and basically said, we need to add more code enforcement agents. We need an increase in code enforcement agents. Well, we have a vote on a sales tax increase. Do you think for 1 second that business owners in our community are going to want to raise a sales tax to be attacked by code enforcement? So I'm voting against the sales tax because of this whole issue. And I would like to say that while I commend you all as county commissioners for doing a good job and trying to alleviate this problem, I believe you all are trying your best. Bob Cole put out a reasonable motion last week, and I appreciate, you know, the couple of you that voted for that. And I think it's reasonable. I think it's a first step in the right direction. And I would just ask you, please don't make these guys pay a fine. It's wrong. And please do what you can. Do what President Trump does. Do what Ron DeSantis does. Cut regulation. We don't need more regulation on our business. We want Santa Rosa County to be open for business, not closed for business. And this publicity with the P&J and all these news networks, it looks bad when other businesses want to come to Santa Rosa County and do business. They go, I don't want to go there. I'm going to be attacked. And so we need to get our reputation straight. We need to make Santa Rosa County open for business. And I hope you all get this straight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And if you want to speak, just come forward and you get the podium. Remember, state your name and address. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I take offense to the reining in staff and attacking. That's not what happened. It was a decision to enforce the laws that are on the books. They were equitably enforced across our commercial corridors because of a complaint from a business owner. So this is not an issue of reining in staff or attacking anyone.
Noted. Go ahead.
I am Martin Deckham, 9050 Sunset Drive, Navarre. With all due respect to the gentleman who spoke earlier with the glasses, just because a law is written does not mean that it is law. Title 28 USC 1983 says that a law which is not constitutional cannot be enforced. In this case, what you're talking about is a prohibition on commercial speech. Commercial speech is protected by the First Amendment, very clearly. In fact, there's plenty of case law that you can find that says when you wish to restrict any kind of First Amendment right, the state must provide empirical evidence to support its argument that it is absolutely necessary. In this case, you would have to compile data that shows that but for the enforcement of this law, certain bad things would happen which the state cannot tolerate. In the larger sense, I saw you all talking with this traffic guy who was talking about installing a surveillance system up and down US 98. And we're talking about restricting First Amendment rights here in Santa Rosa County. In the Washington Post, there was an article about a fellow who was arrested and had to be bailed out because of the offensive content of his bumper sticker. This kind of regulation and heavy-handed anti-constitutional activity is exactly why I left New York and came here. You all are talking about becoming the next New York. People complain about New Yorkers coming down here and ruining Florida, but it appears that the Floridians native to the area are quite prepared to do that all by themselves. Now, if there are problems with feather signs or other signs, then maybe some amount of regulation may be necessary, reasonable and very light regulation, but these prohibitions on signs, bumper stickers, and surveillance systems are really bad for this county and exactly why people will stop moving here or enjoying living here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment.
Eric Vines, 4977 Wabash Pine Court, Pace, Florida. I do appreciate you guys taking the time to address the feather flag issue. I think the sign issue goes way beyond the feather flags, all the way down to all your off-site signage. Sorry, I'm nervous. Realtors, you gentlemen, politicians, nonprofits, which any church under the sun could be a nonprofit. All of those have exemptions to the rules. Off-site, just right out here, the baseball field. I can see people's signage right here on every baseball field, the marquee at Navarre High School. There's so many things that haven't been addressed. And then we say, we're not personally attacking people. But Sean Ward, the planning and zoning director, went on record Monday at the meeting and said that he did actually make the complaints on me on my signs that were on private property. So I am on the other side of that fence. And I do feel like it is kind of a personal attack when the planning and zoning director is who's making my complaints. It's not a citizen calling in. My signs were on private property that Sean took issue with, just like any of you gentlemen's signs. Some of the locations where my signs were, the same property owners will be giving you guys permission to put them there when you rerun. So I think there needs to be clarity all the way across for business owners, because we don't want to violate the law. I don't want to violate the law. I want to get on board and be behind it, but I also want it to be fair to my business to be able to try to earn a living as well, because some of those things do benefit me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And anybody else here to speak this morning? Hobbs.
My name is Kevin Hobbs, 4913 Quiet Meadow Lane. I just want to say I don't feel like I'm being sought out or she's picking on me or whatever the comments were. I didn't put the flag there. One of my tenants did. I guess I've been pulled over by law enforcement, and they've kind of give me a warning, hey, you're speeding, slow down, don't do it again. But they didn't give, I drive a company vehicle, they don't give my boss a ticket, they give it to me. I'm the guy that did it. So this flag, I've had multiple little signs stuck out there from people wanting to promote the kids' house, from people promoting the gun show at the municipal auditorium, because there's a lot of traffic comes in my center. So I understand it, but I don't feel like anybody's picking on me or anything like that. So I just appreciate you guys doing what you can do to, rectify it. And you're not going to ever make everybody happy. So I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. That's actually probably definitely a noteworthy idea as we do embark on the land development code to look at the concern of, I know he's not the only one to voice, making sure that if the property owners are going to get the citation, that the property owners receive the warning as well. Dealt with that on a code enforcement issue. Yes, sir. You look like you want to pop up there. Good morning.
Morning. My name is John Workman. I own 2947 Gulf Breeze Parkway. I'm one of the oldest businesses in this county. One of the oldest landowners in this county from my family. We're 80 years. I don't believe y'all have the right to tell me what I can put on my property or what I can do with my property. My family started here when there was nothing. No roads, nothing. I don't believe y'all should tell me what I can do with my property, what I can put on my property. If I'm going to build something, yes, I'll ask you what your building codes are, parking, stormwater. I've worked with Mr. Farman before. But I don't think y'all should be able to tell any business owner what y'all can do with our business or our land. Y'all work for us. My family's paid the taxes, done our dues. I don't think you should be able to walk on my property and tell me, take this flag down. Simple as that. I mean, if these people buy that property, they pay the taxes. I understand there's a uniformity, but I don't think you should be able to walk on there and tell them, take that flag down, take that sign down. If you want to buy their business, buy them out, and you can take the sign down. I mean, it's the land of the free. It ain't free if we have to pay fines, permits, and do everything that y'all want us to do. I mean, anybody here got 80 years above me or my family? Nobody. I feel it's all wrong. I don't think that nobody should be able to tell somebody to do what on their own property. Business, residential, nothing. You buy it, it's yours. Different approach if you buy into a homeowners association because you bought into that. But if somebody walks up and buys a piece of property on Highway 98, should you be able to tell them what they can build on it?
Yeah, so I do think zoning's a good thing. I think that every state in our great nation, as well as every municipality and county in our entire state, do have zoning regulations. So
Correct.
yes, I do think they're important. Just as you mentioned, having to deal with Stephen Furman and our building department, we have a Florida Building Commission.
Right.
And I believe even folks reference our great Governor Ron DeSantis is looking at even hardening those regulations in the wake of Hurricane Michael to try to prevent such devastation. So I do believe that zoning and regulation is necessary. We have this board proactively unanimously made a decision in January to review our entire land development code comprehensively, which is about 14 or 15 chapters, because we recognize that there are some not only antiquated things, but there's some things that we could probably do better.
Right.
And many of those things have come before the board, but these are decisions, even like the ones we see today, where some folks want them and some folks don't.
Right.
Sometimes the term unintended consequences come, so that's why we want to have sort of a slow, methodical, planned approach to that. This is one of those exact situations where, even as the attorney said, by state law, we can't change it overnight. We cannot legally change our code overnight because we have to go through public notice, public hearing, submit it to the state, they approve it, send it back. So we are looking to rectify that as much as possible. But, that's to the best answer to your question. And I know the gentleman nearest to me on both sides of me both served our great nation in the United States military. So the references of, we're trying to be unconstitutional or inflict upon people's constitutional rights, I don't think holds water with this board. But I don't think that's the intent. But I may have rambled a little bit more than what you're looking for there on your question.
No, I was just stating. I mean, the sign ordinance, I don't agree with it. I mean, if they pay a permit to put a visible sign up, but then you got banners, like the one gentleman said, you got election signs. I have people, I know one for a fact that sits on this board that's come and asked me personally, can I put a sign on your property? Put it on my back property and out of the way of my business. I don't care. But if it's against the law, why are y'all even putting them up? Like Mr. Dabney stated, 2 foot by 3 foot. Where's the stop? It's going to keep going, and then it's going to go into more stuff. How's my building painted? How's this look? How's that look? Where's the board going with all this? I mean, what are we trying to look like? What are we trying to be? Like the gentleman said, that people moving from New York, they move away from places, big cities, to get away from all this stuff. But we're giving it right back to them. I have to deal with it every day. I'm on the Highway 98, Main and Center. Sorry that I offend people with the appearance of my building and my property, trying to do something about that, clean it up. But on the other hand, I was the first one here. My whole family is from here. Nobody in this building is longer than us. The Broxton family.
My family's been here for 150 years. On both
Thank you,
sides.
sir. I'm glad they have been. Broxton family. There are families that are the same, but there's a lot of people that are making these decisions that haven't been, and we are going. Where are we going with all this? Where do y'all want us to be? What do y'all want us to look like?
Yeah, so I think I can answer again. This is a code that was adopted, I
Right.
think, in 2006. So, as my comments earlier, if you'll just stay with me on that. This is not something that
I know.
the board never even discussed. Three of the four members you see in front of you today weren't even here when this was adopted, and so that is why we are taking steps to revisit this and look at it. But you know,
I appreciate you
I don't
doing
know what
that
else to tell
because
you on that.
it's just out of hand. I mean, a lot of it. I mean, I support the county, pay my taxes. We try to do as much support we can. We've donated all kinds of stuff over the past, over the years. I'm not against the county at all. Mr. Furman and the engineering department, we've worked hand and foot with them on many projects. I'm actually pro for the county. I would like to see the county grow. But there are certain areas you need to leave the small businesses alone. There's only so much business they can do. If they can put a flag out there and drum up 10 more customers a day, that's money they didn't have at the end of the day. But they spent $100 and something on that flag to get that business there. If it's on their property, let it be on their property. Now, the right-of-way of the highway, that's a different story. I understand that's y'all's. And that's where I think I need to leave it. If it's on their property, let them have it.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah. Have anybody else that hasn't spoken yet that would like the opportunity to speak on this the sign issue? Okay, we'll grab you as soon as we dispose of this. Anybody else here to speak on the sign issue that hasn't had the opportunity to speak? All right. Commissioner Peach?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We definitely have some work to do with our land development code, and I'm encouraged by some groups out there who have taken a section already and drafted that for the public input. So I would hope more folks can get involved, because that's what we need, is everyone's input as we change this land development code. As I stated Monday, I'm a private property guy. I think we need to roll this out. We definitely need to notify the property owners. You're not the only ones, sir, who got a fine without a warning. I believe the property owners, if properly notified, can deal with their tenants. So I think that change is already in place, which is a good thing. I liked your comments earlier, Mr. Chairman, about how we roll this out. We still enforce, but we give that cure period, longer cure period. So, because this won't be the only issue we find, I'm sure, as we go through. So I like your idea of still enforcing the right-of-ways, are no question. If they're in the right-of-ways, it's got to go. But I think if we give folks opportunity to cure their remedy over a longer period of time and get involved, please, with these public hearings that on the land development code, so we don't get into this again after we pass the new one. So I just want to say I'm in support of your earlier motion, if you're willing to restate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Salter?
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of comments. I'm fighting a cold, so. We have one speaker who said they're going to take the sign ordinance issue and vote against the sales tax because it's anti-business. Let me tell you, one of the worst things you can do for business is not have infrastructure, and it'll shut the whole thing down. So if you're looking for an excuse to vote against the 1 cent sales tax, what you're doing, you're voting against the future of this county, plain and simple. So I would encourage everybody to rethink that comment that was made. Secondly, we said this on Monday. No one set out to harm small business. I've had several phone calls and emails from professional businesses who agree that we need to clean the county up. Intersections, snipe signs everywhere. One business said, I don't have feather flags. I have tripod signs. I put 3 of them out in the morning, I bring them in at night. He said, so I want to see some type of regulation, but allow small businesses on private property to be X amount of feet off the county right-of-way. But clean up everything on the right-of-way. Intersections, get rid of it. So it's hard for me, and I'm going to support it, to single out just feather signs. You got these other businesses that are complying. and they don't have feather signs. So those are my comments, but don't use the sales tax to destroy the future of this county. And the gentleman who spoke about serving, my family's been here probably for 180 years as well. I served the country, I fought in Vietnam, I understand private property rights. And let me just say this in closing. Sometimes we get hung up on private property rights. If I'm your neighbor and you're doing something to totally destruct away from my quality of life and my land, then I have a private property right too. And that's to expect that I should be able to use my property and enjoy my property, not at your expense. So it goes both ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Salter. Commissioner Lynch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner Salter. I agree with your statements there. This was not something, as Commissioner Salter said, that the board embarked on to harm small business. This was something, our enhanced code enforcement was the direct result of citizens coming to this board at meeting after meeting after meeting, asking for additional code enforcement, asking for us to enforce the codes that were on the books. And that's what we've begun to do at the citizens' request. Since this has occurred and since Monday, I've received far more emails and phone calls from residents who appreciate what we've done and who say, you know, the drive up and down 98 is so much more attractive now. We don't have all the visual clutter. It doesn't look tacky and cheap in most areas where people have complied with the code. So there is a legitimate interest in regulating signage. It's commercial speech. There are different rules that apply to commercial speech versus other types of speech. So I don't know where we're going today. If we're just dealing with the feather signs, I think that's a part of the issue. We have, what I would like to see is the feather signs be removed from the definition of an animated sign, because then they would not be prohibited. They would be a permitted use. I'm speaking right now.
Sir, if you will, just hold tight.
The feather signs would be a permitted sign. You apply for a permit, and you can put your feather sign out for 30 days every 6 months, because that's the intent of these signs. It's to catch your eye. It's to make people aware of a grand opening or a special event or something along those lines. So I think we need to take a hard look at our signage ordinance and rewrite it to come up with something that our residents appreciate and that our small businesses can live with.
Thank you, Commissioner. It sounds like the majority of the board or all on the board are in favor of staff's recommendation here for the 180-day notice, and that way, as every commissioner stated, we want to hear. I mean, we have. I say this all the time. We have even some ladies here today that help us out an awful lot with public information. We have some folks that work really hard on public information. We all attend different meetings and citizen outreach, but there's not a week that goes by that we don't meet folks that say, I didn't know, and I get it. I mean, I'm at the ballpark at least 4 nights a week if I'm not somewhere else, and it is hard to get the information. But so at least with those of you here today, we are letting you know, we are pleading with you, even if you feel like that you want to make sure that you receive information. If you'll get with one of the staff ladies and get signed up on an email list where we send out all the things, we are going to have some public input workshops on our land development code. And again, it is so much more, as stated by my fellow commissioners, than just feather flags. There are a lot of other issues that we're dealing with. And yes, we are absolutely trying to enforce our codes better. This is an issue where we've got to look at some revisions on those. And again, it is far more than just the signage aspect. I guess to circle back around just to try to answer Dan on his direction, I don't know if any of my fellow commissioners want to take a stab at an idea on what we do with the existing violations. I know he's provided some backup material here that apologize. I guess we have 292 cases that remain open. Is that correct, Dan?
On this effort, when we received the complaint and looked at the prohibited signs, there were 20 citations issued.
So we've got 20 citations, and you're needing direction on the board's will to how to dispose of those.
Well, just in general, the way ahead, this was a discussion of Article 8 and enforcement, and we've already had enforcement action in some cases, which I think has to be addressed, and then enforcement going forward, it has to be addressed.
I would say, and again, I'm not the attorney on this, but I would say it's sort of like our sheriff. He kind of has discretions on which things he puts emphasis on and which things he weren't. I think that could clearly fall within the designation of your position on that. I don't really see if the board knows that this Article B is an issue, which specifically for animated or feather flags, it has nothing to do with any other part of the code. I don't really see why we would need to even focus assets on that and issue warnings. And again, the reason I reference even the sheriff or any sheriff's department, law enforcement, it's always against the law to not wear your seatbelt, and I encourage you to do that. But we have click it or ticket week for a reason. We put emphasis on it, and I think that's one of those things where really I would think you would have discretion just to say, right now we're not gonna put any emphasis on this code rather than even exhausting time to hand out a 180-day notice. That would be my opinion. But again, if any other board members have something else, I'd be glad to hear it. Yes, sir.
Eric Vines, 4977 Wabash Pine Court. I would really like to ask you guys to consider not just the feather flags, but signs on private property, just private property signs in general, because it's gonna help code enforcement not be overloaded in the next coming months while you guys are rewriting the land development code. Like you said, you're at the ball field every night. How many signs are on the fence at the ball field when you're there watching your kid play? How many businesses are advertising there? It's not in the land development code. How big is the marquee sign at Navarre High School? It's way bigger than anything in Article 8. There's just so many things that when you just say feather flags, then we're going to be back here for the private property stuff next. It just opens a can of worms, in my opinion, that I feel like it would be better to give business owners a chance to try to work with you guys while you rewrite it, as opposed to just trying to come after us.
So I think to that, clearly we're not going to change the land development code before October.
Yes, sir.
On this issue, on any signage issue. So the biggest thing that the business owners can do is to make sure that you attend those public meetings, because
See, the next 6 months are the busiest season of the year. Most of our small businesses, we make what we need to survive in these 6 months.
So we've shared that I mean, we've been very clear across the board. We're not trying to do the crackdown on this. As far as, when you start getting into these off-premise signs or other, and again, probably the best way I can say it, and I'll take a conglomeration of all the comments that were made here today, and I know a lot of them were deeply rooted in passion, and I mentioned Hurricane Michael. It is unfortunate. Hey, we had Hurricane Ivan. I remember having to cut a tree down just to get out of my road, and then pull several more off of Berry Hill Road to be able to get down the road to get to work. We have regulations for a reason. Obviously, it's no different than if I asked 5 business owners out here. I mean, I believe the gentleman that spoke earlier said he was a business owner. That was even 4. If we ask 5 business owners, they're all going to have 5 different opinions, kind of like us, and that's why we have a board. So, the thing with that is that's why we're asking for input. I mean, we have a land development code that's in place. We're going through a process to amend it. And the reason I get off on the hurricanes, we do regulate signage. It is not just hey, you can throw anything up. I mean, if you want to build a new business, we regulate signage. And a lot of those regulations, I mean, you got to remember, a lot of the Florida Building Code and different things come down to us from the state. And those are enacted after heavy deliberation and lobbying from insurance industries and all, and a lot of it, and the reason I say insurance industries, come into destruction afterwards. And so that's why even when these companies go permit signs or they permit buildings, we do them to a certain construction level. And so there is a lot more that goes into just, well, we can do whatever we want. Concerning the school board, they're exempt from all of our regulation. They go out here and put portable building after portable building and impervious surface, and they don't have to put any stormwater attenuation aspects in. Again, those are issues that would be addressed with the state legislative body and not the county.
I think with the sign issue, because I tried to permit signs, Rhonda at Planning and Zoning was trying to help me, and Sean made sure he blocked that. What I don't understand about what you want to call off-site directional or however you want to word that is I can build the same sign you can. Same exact sign, 2 foot by 3 foot. Yours says, I want to run for office. Yours is okay. Mine needs a licensed contractor to go put it there. And it needs to be built to code and everything else. It's the same sign. What makes politicians, nonprofits, and realtors exempt? Because as the way it's written right now, they're exempt. And then, every ball field. I mean, that amazes me that I can't put a sign anywhere, but I can go give Navarre High School $550 and it'll be up there just like it was last year. That's not wrong, but it's wrong for me to put it on someone else's property. Or this is Tiger Point. This isn't a school. There's signs out here. There's signs on every ball field in this county. There's signs on private property. Some of you gentlemen, like Mr. Lynchard, James said that he has pictures of signs on his property.
He, just for the record, he stated a piece of property that Mr. Lynchard sold,
Are sold.
which is
But
now
still,
owned.
The issue is so much larger than just us. And if you guys come after us, what makes it legal or right for your nonprofit? Any church under the sun, I could go start a church tomorrow that doesn't stand for anything.
I'll tell you for the record too, just for the record on that, we've dealt with some issues recently on churches, even as Commissioner Peach's district, where we made churches take signs down, and it was after a citizen-driven complaint. So again, I appreciate your passion on it. I mean, you were trying to make a living. I thank God that you're making a living. If we didn't have businesses, we wouldn't have people coming here for jobs. We wouldn't have houses being built. What I'm telling you is we're not changing the land development code today. We have a process for that. We want input. We're going to have some public meetings. That's why I'm asking you, if you're not receiving county emails, just get with staff. They'll write your email address down, and we want to hear that. It's just today we're not changing that. Today we're addressing the fact that specifically on the feather flags, that we're not going to be issuing any more citations. This is not going to be an issue. And that way, we're trying to address, I guess, the acute need right now. But the overall, we're not doing surgery before an MRI, I guess, for a lack of a better analogy.
But
So
if it's a feather flag today, what's to stop Sean from showing up tomorrow for a sign that's right in front of my business that isn't quote unquote a feather flag? Now it says I have a sale or I have something else going on. Because I promise Sean or Nathan will show up and they will have the hugest smile on their face because they take pleasure in coming down and messing with me, and that's true.
All right, here's what I'm going to tell you. If you have an issue with staff, I would ask you to direct that to our county administrator or our assistant county administrator. That is why we hire these gentlemen. The staff work for them, they work for us. I assure you, if you talk with them and you feel that at the end of that day, after an appropriate period, that you haven't hit something of remedy, this board would be glad to hear it. But when that is the proper, I think, response.
I think every business owner is going to run into that. It's feather flags today. The ones of us that have ruffled their feathers, they're going to find another sign tomorrow. So it's basically just telling us, okay, the feather flags are done. We got that taken care of. But that doesn't stand for the sale signs or any other sign that we may put out there. We're touching on one little issue when signs in a whole are the problem. And I appreciate after the Monday meeting, a lot of the stop signs did get cleaned up that I've had issue with, where I felt like it was selective enforcement, where I could pull up every stop sign.
So you want the board to address the whole sign issue, I believe.
I think on private property.
We are going through the process of that. If you're not receiving county emails, if you'll give Emily or Amanda your email address, we'll make sure that you get the email because we send them out to the public, anybody that wants on our email list. And we'll let you know when we have those public meetings. We are going to address it, but it is not going to be today. We are not going to, that'd be like me asking for, just had a family member go through back surgery. We're not doing back surgery without the MRI. We're not going to change this code without ample input from the public.
I'm just asking you to give that 6 months on all private property on signs on all private property, not just feather signs. I'm not asking you to change the code. I'm just asking you to give all signs on private property, not in county right-of-ways or anything. I think every person here agrees that that's tacky and they should be gone. I'm just asking you on private property to give us the same thing as the feather
I'll
flags.
tell you, I'm
All
not
our
prepared to do that.
regulations all
you a
our
commissioner?
regulations are directed to private property.
Yeah.
Any right-of-way signs are forbidden, so all of our sign regulations deal with private property.
So I'm only one commissioner, but I'm not prepared to do that. Okay, I stated Monday. I don't want to drive down a neighborhood and just see, sign after sign after sign of whatever folks want to put in, or down Highway 87 or 98. I'm a proponent of
I don't want
the
to drive
enforcement
through
of
Navarre and see beat up cars all over the place,
of
stacked on
off-premise
top of
signs.
trailers and everything
so
else, but that's code enforcement doesn't
we're
focus.
not going to do. I appreciate your request. I mean, I do. I appreciate it, but we are not going to take that up unless one of my fellow commissioners say that they want to just say that we're going to have no enforcement on any sign regulation. So with that, does anybody have any other direction for Dan on how to deal with the existing 20 violations? If not, I'll make a recommendation then, Dan, that we would notify them that we will, I guess, repeal the violation, those 20 that are there, and then ask. Again, I guess I might have to ask Roy, as Bob had mentioned. The issue then becomes is how far back do you go if you want. I mean, that would be the.
The issue is we have a law on the books that you're going to tell staff not just enforce, but to retroactively unenforce.
And I don't see where we could do that, because then it goes back into, this has been on the books since 2006.
I think that's the basis for what the county administrator recommended.
So that any current violations would see their way through the legal process. They could go through it to an administrative judge.
That's correct.
And so that judge could then decide if he wanted to. He would have the leeway based on the totality. If he wanted to decide there'd be no fine imposed, that would be his legal right.
That would be the case.
Okay. That sounds like the most prudent thing. I know it's not a perfect world, but we're not dealing with perfect issues here. So, do any other commissioners have any other items that they'd like to bring forward? Otherwise, I would take that recommendation of Roy's, that we allow the current 20 to go through the process, and then for future we will take the specific paragraph 8.09.01B to allow corrective period of 180 days for feather flags.
Real quick. I
Yes,
think
sir.
there's a, in part of the ordinance, there has to be a written notice of violation, correct? For
That's the
fine can be
process.
issued? Okay. I need proof of all those written notifications before we agree to what you guys have no written notification. So we enacted a fine before you followed your proper procedure.
And I would say that that'll be something that administrative hearing officer could take care of. You could then ask
That
for
would be
that.
something that could be raised with a special magistrate, yes.
All right. Thank you. All right. If there's no further comments by any of my fellow commissioners, then I'll make the recommendation that we take the 180-day corrective period and we allow the current existing 20 violations to work their way through the legal remedy process. Do that without objection. And none, the item is approved. Item number 4 is a meeting list to be held in the boardroom at Administrative Center. It's listed there. Do any of my fellow commissioners or members of the public have any reason to object with the published meeting list?
Just want to point out the joint meeting is next Wednesday, May 15th, in our boardroom at 2 p.m.
All right. And that is a joint meeting with the school board. All right. We will approve the meeting list. We have no other items on the agenda. We will go ahead. Do we have anyone here? Mrs. Sizemore, I know for sure. Yeah, sorry. We're going to now move to public forum. So if any of you have any things you'd like to address with the board that hasn't been discussed here today, now would be the time. Just hang around. Good morning. And I just wanted to give you an update. I know staff had stated you were en route.
Yes, I'm
and,
disappointed. May I suggest that you list directions on your website? Because I just started out an hour and a half early this morning, so I wouldn't be late. And I spent nearly an hour on the phone with Judy trying to find this place. Nobody at the office knows where this place is located. So it's not negligence on my part. I really tried to be early for
No,
the meeting.
I apologize, and we sure don't hold it against you. I can tell you
Please
what.
don't hold it against us. My mother didn't have anybody to advocate for her. That's why I asked Judy to send you an email and let you know I was on my way.
Yes, ma'am. I was just giving you an update that so the board did approve to reduce the lien amount from the lien amount legally we can't reduce, but the interest amount, which was calculated on the 12%, was like nearly $20,000, and so the board took the direction that was stated Monday of dropping that to a 3% interest rate, which is close to our borrowing interest rate, which would drop it to $5,151 and 60 cents. And so the board approved that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to hear from you. I was just
I
giving
would
you an
like
update
to
of
plead
where
our
we're at.
case. I feel like it might fall on deaf ears, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm pretty overwrought right now.
No, you take your time.
If you, those of you who say you've been in Santa Rosa County for so long, you probably knew my dad, Ewell Philip Sizemore. He was a deputy sheriff who served this community faithfully for 30 years. He devoted countless hours of volunteer time to the citizens of this community. He put his life on the line 24/7 for years. He never got any recognition or attaboys or commendations, but he didn't expect it. He served this community out of the goodness of his heart because he loved the people of Santa Rosa County. He had a heart for people. And despite all of the dishonesty that he dealt with on the job, he still had faith in the humanity. So when we moved from Plant Avenue, said property with the lien, he told this man that he could have the trailer and everything in it if he would clear the land. And he had faith that that man would do it. He didn't follow up on it, unfortunately, and we didn't even know about this lien until we tried to sell the property about a month ago. Now, my dad passed away 3 years ago. He never shared anything with us. He didn't leave any life insurance. And now there's just my mother, who is a widow, an old lady with congestive heart failure and diabetes, and AFib. The stress of this is going to kill her. We don't have that. If we had the money, we would have addressed it and wouldn't have come to this. We don't have the $5,000. We just don't have it, which is why I'm casting our pride aside and asking you to have a heart. Imagine if this was your mother or your wife or your daughter. Are you listening? Does anybody care? I mean, we paid taxes. We've supported the county. Have some compassion. We just don't have it. If you would waive it, we would appreciate it, because you can't address something that you don't know about. And furthermore, if the county had tried to contact us, we lost everything in Hurricane Ivan. We got out of there with nothing but the clothes on our backs. We were homeless. We didn't even have an address for a while. So if the county had tried to contact us, you wouldn't have been able to. We're not being negligent. We're not shirking our responsibilities as former citizens of Santa Rosa County. But I am casting my pride aside and asking for leniency.
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Sizemore.
Miss Sizemore.
I
Mrs.
apologize.
Sizemore is my mother, Martha Borland Sizemore.
I apologize. I definitely don't want you to think that any members of the board are impassionate upon it. I do understand that the things we do, just as the attorney stated when we talk about sign issues, that policies we set have great implications, and the thought of the reduction from the 20,000 to the 5,000, as I believe Commissioner Lynchard, had mentioned Monday, brings it back down to where it's really just making the county whole. As far as the money that the county spent, that were obviously long before the years that I was here, but they're entrusted to. I mean, that was some of my tax dollars. I was a homeowner at the time as well, and they used for that. And so now we're really just trying to recapture the exact cost. There'd be no extra on it. And
We just don't
I
have it.
haven't, I've never
you
been
can't
in
get
your
blood
case.
from a turnip.
Right. Like
I
just
said,
don't want
Daddy
you to
didn't have
think
any
that they
life
don't-
insurance. He left us in a bind. He tried to handle everything himself. He was dying of cancer. He was nothing but skin and bones, but still tried to take care of us the best he could.
I don't think this board has any further discretion that we could possibly take that would still
It really
not
upsets me to
take
see board
one
members texting when I'm trying to plead my case, because it feels like my case is not significant. Like nobody cares.
No, ma'am. I will tell you there was not a man on this board that objected to reducing that amount by over $15,000. So I don't want to at all think that they don't care. It's just we cannot sacrifice county dollars for the expense of one specific citizen, no matter the case, because then it comes into, I don't know if Roy would even know, but I'm sure there probably is hundreds of liens on the books in the county. And
We had no idea, though. If we had, we would have addressed it. We wouldn't have let it come to this. It's not like we are irresponsible and just ignored any notices or anything.
and again,
We
I
never
mean,
received any notices.
the board waived over $15,000 in interest. So I don't want to paint these gentlemen as impassionate at all. I mean, they reduced that amount. They, just so you know, when this was first brought to the attorney, the board could have said, and again, I think these gentlemen showed compassion. We actually could have instructed our attorney, no, we don't want to reduce this. As a matter of fact, we want you to foreclose on the property. And all he would have to do is file the paperwork, and we could capture the property back, and then we could sell it as the county. And that would be what I think the ultimate impassionate thing to do. So I speak behalf of these gentlemen. No one hesitated or wavered in the fact to reduce that, to try to get you there. That really just gets it to where we are just covering the bare minimum cost that the county spent to get it there. And I
just want you to know that we weren't being irresponsible. We weren't being negligent.
Right.
We weren't hoping that this would just go away. We didn't know about it. And I'm sorry.
I don't want you to think
But
that
now
at all.
Daddy's gone and we're left to deal with this.
I'm sorry for what your family's having to go through. I just don't want you to think that it's falling on deaf ears.
It's very humbling to come before you and present our case like this and to air our dirty laundry. But I am begging for help.
Yes, ma'am. We have done everything that we can do in our legal power to reduce that. So I mean, it has been reduced from the 20,000 down to the 5,100 and some change. And again, the board, these guys approved it. They knew they were going to do it without you even being here, and that was really the only reason we did that, was not to negate you the opportunity to speak, but really just to try to be judicious with your time.
I just wanted someone, and I apologize. I know you had an
You're
agenda.
fine.
I did plan ahead. I did try to find directions. Lost my train of thought. I just wanted you to know that I wasn't blowing this off, and I know your time is important.
No, we
That's
appreciate
why I
you.
planned ahead. But please do include directions on your website, because nobody knew where this was. And I
If
had
it
the
makes you
wrong
feel better,
address.
the pastor had to ask me how to get here too. So.
But you knew how to get here. I didn't.
So thank you for coming. Please feel free to take a moment and
No, I
collect
just feel
yourself
bad
before
because
you
there was
get out there in
nobody
the
here
car.
to speak on my mother's behalf.
Yes, ma'am.
She doesn't have anybody to advocate for her except me. And she just doesn't have the physical strength to fight for herself or speak for herself. Now, I know she made a personal phone call and she spoke to someone yesterday. That's all she could do. I mean, she's helpless, totally helpless. To see your mother like that, it's just heartbreaking. After losing Daddy the way we did.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. If you would just come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Anna Lawler, 2532 Cedar Crest Lane, Navarre, Florida. Oh, it's got a green button. Oh. Okay. I got some pictures for you. First question is, where's the button for the air conditioner?
Hey, I asked them when I first came in the building
I saw him over there with his tie loosening it up. Yeah. I'm here to speak to you about the Navarre condition of the Navarre Beach Fishing Pier. The Navarre Beach Fishing Pier is the crown jewel of Navarre Beach. Santa Rosa County has an obligation to maintain the pier in a way that makes it safe for the public. Duty of care is an obligation to avoid placing visitors to the pier in the path of danger. The plywood patchwork repair does not meet the standards of a reasonable or prudent person. My husband, that was in construction all his working life, called the plywood patchwork completely insane. There are no barriers, cones, warning signs to give notice of the dangerous surface. You have a duty to warn people walking out on the pier of the walkway dangers. The patchwork of plywood is a hazard and has exposed Santa Rosa County to liability issues. I provided you with pictures of the pier I took April 29th. If you look in the bottom right corner, that picture is in the bottom right corner. I placed a quarter next to the plywood patch to show you the tripping hazard height. You are going into prime tourism season. The pier will become crowded. Visitors are focused on the spectacular view, taking pictures, texting while walking, trying to keep an eye on their grandkids, or landing a big fish. When somebody screams shark or big fishes on the hook, folks scramble out there. They're running to take a look. The plywood patches are an interruption of movement of the feet, causing loss of balance. Pull up the plywood patches and properly do a temporary repair of the deteriorated wooden decking. Shut the pier down if need be, but make it safe for the public. Expedite that full-scale pier renovation project. One reason the wood decking did not hold up as well as you expected, and I can write a book on pressure-treated decking, is you did not do the maintenance required. Your decking maintenance is reactionary. You only give it attention after damage is noticed. It's kind of like never changing the oil in your car, then wondering why your engine seized up. Pass a new rule today about the pier. When nobody's paying attention, somebody needs to start paying attention. I emailed you the end of April about a person who tripped on a raised plywood patch. She lost her balance, fell, and sustained a shattering break to her hand. She is here today and would like to speak to the county administrator after the meeting, if that's possible. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Etta. I think it's worth a question, and I appreciate I saw the email. I appreciate the fact that you would advocate for further safety. I will say that from the photos prior, I didn't realize until I saw the close-up here with the quarter that it was raised as much. Honestly, it looked a little more flat. I just had a question, I guess, for I know Roger's not here, but got a lot of other guys here. Would there have been great expense, or really, I can't imagine the expense as much. Is there some structural reason of not just replacing, say, like a lot of these, the 3 timbers that are there instead of just covering it with the plywood? I don't know. I definitely don't understand the structural design of how the pier was put in, if you could replace those 3 at a time versus the raised. I mean, I guess your timing's perfect. I was at the T-ball game Monday night, and I set some chairs down beside me, and my father-in-law wasn't paying attention and stepped back, and he tripped, and he almost fell down, and he was very upset about it, and it could have been very bad. He's had several back surgeries. As a good son-in-law would do, I kind of had to poke at him and say, well, they were sitting there. You should have seen them, look down before you walk. But I understand, even in that case, unfortunately, folks aren't always aware of that. So what would be the reasoning behind that we didn't just replace them to keep it level instead of plywood? And I hope it's not just going to be a few $100.
Oh, go ahead.
We're currently rebidding the project. We had non-compliant bids the first time. We had some licensing issues we've resolved. In fact, I got a meeting this afternoon with Roy and others to go over the final draft of the new bid specs for the project, and it'll be bid out again. As far as the planking, this is the first I've seen. I'll send someone out there today. We can rescrew the deck, and we can put some signs up to make it more visible that we've got some patchwork here to do. As far as the patchwork that was done, I wasn't involved in that decision. Surely they could have done the 3, why they did this. If it's done correctly and signed, there really shouldn't be an issue, again, being signed correctly. I don't see that here. That needs to be done. I'm sure that the patchwork was done as a result of the bids coming in, and subsequently they were denied, and we're moving on to another bid. So that's slowing the process down. But we'll get someone out there today and fix this. We'll put some cones up or put some signage up to make that more visible.
Yeah, I'm following you on that. I guess, so I knew about the bid thing. I don't know, how many patches are we talking, Ed? How many are out there?
Looking at one picture and just multiply the distance.
There are a lot, sir. The decision was made. I made the decision to make the temporary repairs because we were going through the bid process, and we were going to be replacing the entire pier decking. The difference is probably in the thousands of dollars. I don't know if it reaches $10,000. There's 121 total patches out there. These were intended to be temporary with the pending award, and then we ran into the issues with the bids. We can certainly improve the signage and notify people that there are tripping hazards ahead. The boards are all painted orange, and we have a process to make sure that those stay bright orange. But the decision was made because of that, where we were in the pier deck replacement, and these were to be temporary in nature.
I would, I'm gonna make a recommendation that, so my first thought was we could take some orange cones and screw them down and affix them with washers and all that, but that's what we do on the north end of the county. We just make do. We ain't got a whole lot of money. But seeing how the fact that we know this is going to be a little bit of time before we have a new contractor, all right, and we know that we are at peak season and we are actively spending $1 million a year to get visitors here. We have one injury. We're probably, I'm sure, I'm not an attorney, but going to be exposed to some litigation on that. I would think that our exposure is far greater after this meeting and this discussion today if we had another injury. I'm going to make the recommendation. Clearly, we're keeping the pier open. We're spending $1 million to bring people here. That we just repair these timbers. I don't care if it's $10,000 or $15,000 to repair them. If it's $20,000, if it prevents the cost of litigation, and I'm just sitting there thinking, man, if we did like my mind said, we screwed cones down, and now we got 121 cones out there. If I'm a first-time visitor to Navarre, that's probably not the best look either. So we may have to spend more money than we planned, but that's my recommendation as a commissioner that only had the opportunity to serve 1 year on the TDC, but we've also got to think, hey, we're going to have first-time visitors this summer. But I don't want anybody to get hurt, and I'm going to tell you, I don't know where the lady's at. I know you said she was here. If you ask me, would I spend $20,000 or go through what you went through, I think you already know the answer. So if this is something we could do to fix, and again, I saw the boards, and I never had a problem with it from seeing it, because clear from the pictures I saw, honestly, it seemed like it was a pretty flat thing. But if you're talking about a half-inch raise that could cause somebody to stumble,
that's over an inch.
Yes. Hang on, just say if you want to talk, absolutely, you can come address the board. But I'm going to go ahead and make the recommendation that we replace these timbers unless there's some structural reason that says we can. It seems to be that they're sectionized. I mean, I'm sure these are probably 8 foot wide timbers or so. Is that about right? But again, I think the minute we have another accident like this, we'll probably pay far more than that in litigation. So my suggestion would be that we expend resources to do that immediately. I mean, again, God forbid it doesn't happen, and I know Lane's not a personal injury attorney, but I'm sure there's many that would love to get a hold of a case if somebody falls down tomorrow after this discussion today.
Mr. Chairman, if
Lane.
what I would suggest, let's direct engineering, public works staff to take a look at the bridge, at the pier, evaluate these temporary patches, and then come up with a better solution. If it not necessarily replacing the timbers, but if it's sheet metal that's, you know, quarter inch that we could put down there where it's a very minor variation in the height of the decking, that would be something that could be done relatively quickly, I would think. Because I'm not sure if we tell staff to replace the timbers, that may take longer than just getting getting something that is better than what we have.
Not agree with that.
I'm good with. You may actually even be able to have no bevel if you just did it to where it was capped and went down between. So I appreciate the idea. I think it's something we got to act on immediately. I mean, so I appreciate if you want to come here and okay, all right. She said you wanted to talk. We get a better look at you. No, listen. I want to tell you on behalf. I think I speak for the board on this. Look, we are very sorry that you got injured. I know you want to speak with the administrator and the county attorney, and I'm not going to say anything further that would possibly jeopardize the county and anything to come, but I do want to tell you that we are very sorry that you got hurt. I mean, clearly, even as the gentleman said, we've 1,800 something car wrecks a year. We got a lot of people go out here and get hurt every day, and it's heartbreaking. But I do want you to know that we're sorry it happened, and Ed, I appreciate you bringing it forward to the board. And it sounds like we're going to get some corrective action.
I think you can find something that, those are, I don't know, I know Don was on the board back when that pier was built, and it was taught, breakaway panels, and I remember Gordon Gooden making a statement. Somebody said, what if we have a hurricane? Don't worry about it, we'll be up and running. The breakaway panels, we got a bunch of them in storage. Are there any breakaway panels already built up in storage somewhere?
No, ma'am.
Okay, that answers that question, because that rumor's been going around Navarre. But they are pull-up panels.
Every time these are replaced, ma'am, they're individually made and replaced. They're custom made, so there's not spares.
In the future, after the resurfacing, if there's any typical ones, say if you got 50 of them as typical, maybe have one built up somewhere handy, because I'll tell you, when staff went out and they were replacing the deck boards, they kept the pier open. They had some barricades, but the barricades would not have stopped a 2-year-old running and going clap. Okay, have a build up a blowaway in the shop, because anytime on construction, the least amount of time you have a dangerous situation open for the public to get involved in. So you pull that out with a little forklift or something, boom, slap another one in. Because you got to all, don't spend hours like they did before the plywood patches. Because you're leaving exposure to your workers. And anytime you can use a forklift, a crane, a hoist, versus manpower, you're better off.
Thank you.
And as far as the orange paint, I don't know what they used. It's out of the engineering department. So I look at it as orange paint that I would have flagged trees to be cut or trees to save that washes away, because some of them, the orange spray paint is so faint, it's gone.
Yeah, the sun.
Yeah.
Between the sun and the salt water, that's probably the harshest condition known to man out there.
I'll never have another house. I'll never have another rent house. I'll never have any house with a wooden deck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public that are here to speak today on an item that the board... Do we need... Are y'all good with going? All right. Just making sure we didn't need a 5-minute break. Good morning.
Elise T.
Thanks for making the drive down. Nah. Go ahead.
3249 Burnett Drive. Luckily, we're in an area that's, you know, in the middle there, so it's kind of easy to get down here. I wanted to talk to you guys about a couple things that are going on that we're running into that's become an issue. First, I want to address one situation. Seneca Trail Road, the private portion of the road, is owned by Seneca Road LLC that has been a dissolved corporation since 2008. And they were wondering why the county didn't take the road over. So the only reason that I can figure out is because there's no taxes on the road. But my question is, if it's a dissolved corporation since 2008, what happens with a road that no one owns, really legally?
I'll let them tee it up. If not, we're dealing with this with drainage, ponds, roads, and all kind of stuff all over the county.
The trustees of the dissolved corporation, or the last board of directors of the dissolved corporation, are the owners of the road. If the road was not built to county standards and was not taken for maintenance by the county at the time that it was built, it's not the county's responsibility.
Okay. It was just a question we wanted to address before we pursued possibly taking it over. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So I wanted to find out that answer because everyone in that LLC is dead except for Mr. Murphy, who's 90, and his grandson has power of attorney. So we're talking to him about the road. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. So, and I have talked to Stephen about it. So, we had a meeting with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection regarding the bridge. The community did vote on a engineer, and we have been trying to figure out all the permitting and all the issues that we have. The biggest issue is that the Philibert Creek is a sovereign state-owned piece of land. So in order for us to build over Philibert Creek, we have to have a easement rights. And private easement rights are going to be a very big challenge from what we've been told. The mean high water line, since it is a tidal tributary, the mean high water line goes all the way to the edge of the bayou there. We've been asked by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection if the county would consider somehow working with us to make that a public easement versus a private easement to help abate some of the issues that we're going to run into. I don't know how to work that out with the county, but I have been asked by the board to address this issue with the commissioners to see if there's a way that you guys can help us. It's also going to be a larger cost for us. It's a 25-year lease that for the easement rights. If the county does it, it would be 50 years, and the cost would be tremendously less, and the process for it will be much quicker. So, just wanted to bring this up and see if the county can maybe work with us on this.
So, again, only one commissioner, but I would encourage, I'd love for you to have that conversation with our legal department. I know it's going to be a little bit more in depth than you could have here in a public forum, and let them look at that and then come back to us, because clearly I'm not going to be prepared to make a decision on it, and I couldn't imagine these other gentlemen are until we hear from our legal team as far as their recommendation. And then that would be what I would ask, is if you'll get with Roy, and then he may be willing to chime in now. He's got the trigger finger over there.
We need to have more discussion in regard to it.
So I would just encourage you, just reach out to Roy if
I
you don't have
wanted
his
to- yeah.
contact information, if you'll just get with Emily and get it to him, and then let him come back to the board or at least brief us on the situation.
Okay. Just so, the other thing to let you know, we can't build next to the bridge. There's Army Corps of Engineers and the Florida Department of FDEP will not let us build next to the bridge, so we're going to have to rip the bridge out and put in the same footprint, which means that we're going to have to use the railroad crossing going out. I'm hoping, pray, maybe by that time when we get to that point, CSX has sold the line, but we don't know anything yet at this point, and it's going to cost us an additional $250 to $350 for the arms. So we're looking at this is going to be close to $2 million in total, maybe more. So for 78 lots, which we know one of them isn't going to be paying, so we're 77 lots. So it's a lot of money for a small community, and I don't know what else to say to you guys, but just to at least bring this to your attention.
Thank you very much, and I share with you. I know I told you in private. I own property on a private road. I wish I wish I could get the county to pave it. They won't. I've tried for years before I'm a commissioner. You're in the same boat. It's and so I don't want you to think that if for anybody else, I'm extremely compassionate to it. I've got dozens of folks that live on Mayburn Bridge Road up in Commissioner Salter's district that they'd love to see the county pave it. But at the end of the day, that's not how it works, and those citizens don't want to spend the money, and the folks on my private road don't want to spend the money either. So if anything, there's comfort in the misery of others, maybe. So
I just really think, with all the things that you guys are reviewing right now, I really think that you guys should really look into, and I'm not sure exactly what your processes are, because I'll be honest, I haven't looked. I've been so busy dealing with our issues that I haven't looked at the counties and the way they do things. But if you have a community for each section, I don't know if you do or not, that are zoning representatives for the county where people can appeal to them and get your local community involved a little bit more to help prevent. It seems like the area that we're in, there was a developer, and there was nothing but problems for the entire area. And that's all going south to almost Garcon Point, is that right? So regarding these bridges, regarding these roads, and it was pretty much one developer who did it. And they went bankrupt, and now everybody who lives there is paying the price for it, or has been paying the price for it for the last 25, 30 years. So how does the county work with something like that where you have that kind of issue? So I was just kind of curious of how do you get your community involved in a positive way by maybe having zoning committees. I mean, they do it in Miami. There's I think 21 districts within Dade County where they have zoning meetings, and it's local people representing the county commissioners and help alleviate some of the things that you guys go through, and having, because I've sat in a lot of meetings and heard all the stuff you guys go through, and then when there's a real serious problem, you guys don't have the time to deal with it, or your email's inundated. And I really do feel compassion for you, because this is not an easy job. It's not.
Well, I just share with you, also, it's kind of an anecdotal note. Most of our audience is left, and folks asking for less regulation. And as we shared, obviously, now you're saying regulation's important. I agree with you. And even that's why we have state licensure for these contractors that do these things. That's why they have the board. I could ask you to appeal to your state legislature as well as your governor's office if you wanted to make sure those certifications were higher. I mean, there's no way to go back and say, what do? We had this contractor and all these things are failing. I don't know if that's time or that bad contractor or what. I don't know enough details on it. But, you know, we do have a zoning board for things like this. We do approve regularly private subdivisions. I know down south, obviously, if you're familiar with Miami, it's much more prevalent than here. We have many more private communities. It's a great thing for the county. It's a great thing for the citizens. Yeah, it costs more, but they can regulate it and they can have those rights. But I don't know if you don't have any other ventures though. I'd be glad to hear back from Roy after he has the opportunity to talk with you about it.
I mean, I went through Hurricane Andrew, okay, in Miami, and I know how things were changed in construction and various things. So, and my mom sat on the zoning committee for 20 years. She got paid nothing. It was a volunteer job, basically. But, you know, these are things that, you know, people who do have an interest in helping you guys, if you have that support to help you maybe alleviate some of your things. It's just an idea. I just want to throw it out there.
We do have a planning and zoning board with two citizens appointed by each commissioner.
So, yeah, but, you know, maybe for each area to help you alleviate some of your stress. So just kind of throwing it out there, yeah.
I understand.
Giving you an idea.
No,
You know,
we appreciate it.
not that I've got anything else to do, right, Stephen? So, thanks, guys, and appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. If you'll just give your name and address for the record.
Okay.
I want to say, too, y'all got to fix this air conditioner for the next meeting. Summertime's coming. It's getting warm in here. All right, go ahead.
Okay, real quickly. My name's Jeannie Kinnear, and I live at 2744 Sherwood Drive in Navarre. So Commissioner Peach is my commissioner. And, yeah, which I'm happy about.
You doing good?
He is.
All right.
Yeah, in fact, we're kind of neighbors, so. But anyway, my comment is, you know, we're talking about regulations and everything. The only thing is what I was thinking about as I was sitting there too, is even regulations with the government can make mistakes, because look at what Our Lady just said about the pier. All that is commissioner and the zoning board and the tourism department, and all that is being done by us, the Santa Rosa County. However, you have to delegate as commissioners. You have to delegate to your county administrator and the assistant who does the job. My point is that you can't decide on it all. But we do not want faulty things being built. We do not want things that won't last 30 years being built, that we have to come back and redo it. And that is the issue. It's not anybody's fault necessarily. But when I ask a contractor to come to my house and they say, okay, I'll fix that roof. Well, I'm going to say, are you going to come here? And are you going to oversee this project? And do you know what? I can get people who will say no. Well, then I say, okay, you sent me your expert. You've sent me the expert to come out and give a bid. But then what you do is you send the amateurs to do the work. And really, we don't want amateur building around here in Santa Rosa County. We don't want people who are not going to have things last. I don't know if it's appropriate, but I have been to Holly by the Seas board meetings, and they have engineers on their board. They have these great people who it would even be good to talk to, some of them, because they've even told me that one of the best, this one engineer said, I'm not going to say his name, but he said, the only company I would ever have do any work around my home is Flynn, F-L-Y-N-N, because people were saying, why don't you have another construction company do that work? And he said, because I know only Flynn is the best one around. Well, here's an engineer stating, now I want to mention that all the people that have come in here today, all the people who have come in since January, all the people who've spoken at the podium, wherever you have your commissioner meetings, those are people who are intelligent, articulate, who can help in the community. They know what's going on. We don't need to spend another 6 months, another year rewriting a land development code when you have heard from experts who know what's going on, who have said, this is one thing we really need to do, we need your help. I don't think we need any more, and I just want to say, I don't think we need any more meetings, public meetings. The people who are really interested have already spoken, have already been here, and are just looking for action. Like, I want action. I want people who know what they're doing, who can come in and get it done. And it does take time with the government. Everything with the government. I know the people who've worked for the government, my commissioner, everybody, but I do know that the military will go top of the line for everything they have done. And I want Santa Rosa County to do that, because we cannot go toe-to-toe with other counties unless we get higher end things going here for people to do and get that fishing pier looking like, oh my gosh, we need to replace it, but we only want the best contractor, the best developer, and somebody who could go in there and patch that to be appropriate for people to walk on that. So I don't know what happened. They might have sent a worker, the main contractor didn't look at it and re-look, and that's typical in Florida, of not okaying the work by the expert.
I want to just get you real quick before you walk away. Appreciate it. I know Mr. Flynn wishes he was here. He'd probably buy you lunch. Great guy. I know he'd appreciate the plug. His little kids' team beat my kids' team in T-ball on Monday night. But what I get at is there's other contractors in the county that would argue, he lives in Commissioner Salter's district, that would argue that they do just as good a quality of work. But what I get at is Mr. Flynn charges a premium price, and he builds a premium product. And you think quality is worth paying for, correct?
I do.
All right.
I do.
And so our county administrator, to his defense, has rolled out a package to us telling us that he's $280 million short of being able to do the job that we've asked him to do for capital projects. And so I wanted to defend the staff of, I can tell you for a long time, this county, because there are many people, many people in all of our districts that, as you've heard today, not everybody has the same thing, and they want to keep taxes extremely low. And even things like this pier, it doesn't surprise me, and I don't say that in a negative way. This county has had to do with a shoestring budget for a long time, and that is why I couldn't let you leave without saying, just like you said, quality, you got to pay for it. That's why this board has asked for the citizens to approve the 1 cent sales tax. As Mr. Salter stated earlier, the county administrator has done his job of saying, guys, look, here's the needs, I need the money. And so our board is challenged now to say, how do we do it with the money? So I just wanted to get your take on that, as far as to make sure we do agree that quality costs.
Yes.
And so for us to get our infrastructure where we need to be, it's going to cost money. And so that's why we're asking the citizens for that.
Right. Well, I can see where some of the money that we've used in the county and we're getting ready to spend might not be the best. And I think we're getting ready to spend $200,000 on a campaign for the half-cent increase in.
No, ma'am. I don't.
We're not
know
doing that. We're not doing.
Oh, you're talking about for the special election.
Special election.
And I want to tell you why, real quick, on that.
But that's $200,000 that could be used on that pier.
No, I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because I hope that if there's anybody in here that didn't know this is very important. So this board chose to spend $200,000 to do the special election this August for the very important reason of the state legislature requires that sales taxes can only start on January the 1st, okay, of the next calendar year after it's approved. So if we would have waited until next November or August or March, whatever, we would have lost that entire calendar year, $16 million of revenue that we would have lost to spend that $200,000. I think if my math is correct, that's about 1.25%. So because I'm going to tell you, as a dad of young boys that are out there at ballparks that need money, as a dad that drives on the road of places that need money, we're spending that $200,000 to get $16 million of revenue for that one calendar year. If we waited till March to save $200,000 and lose $16 million, You find me a businessman that says that that's a bad decision, and I'll be in shock. So that's why. But I wanted to explain that to you. We had to do it to be able to get the revenue for next year.
Okay, well, I am not sure, and I'm not going to speak to it because I don't really understand being unincorporated. I know that not everybody, all the districts on the here are unincorporated, like Milton and Pace and Gulf Breeze, but in Navarre we are. But anyway, no, I really do believe in government grants. I do believe in, you know, making sure that we have the proper facilities that for everybody and the services. And I can't really speak to that. We're so poor as a county. I don't know the business end of it. So that's it. But I know that there's certain things. One other thing that I don't even want to say, but I know Dave, Colonel Peach will say, I call him Commissioner Colonel Peach. He's in charge of Navarre Park, and I'm kind of like, I don't know why we have to spend all that money, $3.8 million, even to change Navarre Park. You know, I mean, right now. So I get it to a certain degree, but I don't really think that sometimes you hear the people necessarily, really hear the people that are so articulate and know what is going on in the community. And I want to be here as a retiree with nature around me, surrounded by nature and just surrounded by good things and good places to go. I don't care about signs. If I see signs, I'm like, oh, that doesn't bother me. So we all have different personalities. We all have different needs and desires, and we respect everybody, and that's the main thing. We respect, meaning value everybody who comes up to this podium and all of you. And just so we get the job done right, the Japanese say, whenever you do a job, do it right the first time, and you won't have to do it over. Okay?
Thank you. I appreciate you putting the plug that quality's worth paying for. Good afternoon. Well, you know it's not afternoon, but it might be before we get out here, so good morning.
I'm going to be brief. Pete Harris Inman, 3583 Laguna Court. Coming up next week, couple weeks, got the impact fee coming in front of you guys. Last few weeks, I'm in the building industry, I'm a building contractor. It was stated for a long period, that was a long meeting with our industry up there, saying how bad that the impact fees are for our industry. And about it being a room full of people and crazy, I'd just like to reiterate that and give that a lot of thought before next couple weeks.
No, I appreciate that. I know the home builders have asked me to come to their meeting, just as any other organization you can invite, and I don't think I turned many down. You know, I wish more of y'all would have been there to voice your opinion to the school board. This is another governmental agency to ask. I know I saw 3 folks of that community get up and speak. We had some representatives there. I don't think we talked on it, but you know, I would encourage you to come to the 15th meeting. I know this is a passionate conversation. I've talked with one of the school board members this morning, matter of fact, and you know, because I asked her, I said, hey, I had some teachers at the FFA banquet ask me, how does this affect me? And the answer I got this morning was, it only affects them if they buy a new house. It's going to cost more. They're not going to get a pay raise. So I would just share with you, it's going to be a challenging discussion when you have another governmental body telling you, but we haven't had that meeting. I haven't seen the plan or whatever. So I asked some of those questions this morning. I expect that we'll have that. Maybe what plan do they have of if they get this money, what will they do? And if they don't, what will they do? But I would just encourage you to try to come to that meeting. And that way, again, this board, we are not the ones asking for it. That is the school board you're referencing, and they're asking us to impose that on our folks that are trying to build houses in the community. So I would just ask you to come to that meeting, and that way, if you have questions, you can ask them. Otherwise, hopefully we can get some information, because I don't have the answers for you.
I understand. Just again, you guys know the data on impact fees and what it can take away from the development, and reiterate it.
I always like to say I paid one in 2006, so I understand.
I understand.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Do we have anybody else that's here to speak today that hasn't had the opportunity?
Mr. Chairman, I just got one thing before
All right.
we close, if the public's done. Just, I talked about the legislative actions that the legislature passed last Saturday, and it's now in the governor's basket, and we are still defending those projects. So the line item veto pen is out, and we will see where we end up.
Maybe we can have some citizens call and advocate to our governor's office that Santa Rosa County could use some money for our infrastructure. That'd always be appreciated. Any of y'all want to work on the phone today? Otherwise, if I don't see anybody else coming forward, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.